Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Small Cap Discoveries conference call. Today on our call, we have Hattie Abassi, the CEO of Atlas Engineered Products, and Melissa McRae, the CFO. Atlas trades on the TSX Venture Exchange under the symbol AEP and on the OTC under APEUF. The company is trading at 38 cents with roughly 58 million shares outstanding, or about a $22 million market cap. I'd now like to hand it over to Paul Andriola.
Awesome. Thank you, Trevor. We have Hattie Abassi, one of my favorite guys. We get a chance to really talk to somebody who I've come to really appreciate. And I think hopefully after 45 minutes, an hour, you guys will understand and appreciate Hattie as much as I do. We're going to talk about Atlas Engineered Products. I think a number of you know that I recently joined the board. I'm also a significant shareholder of the company, so I want to make sure that everybody understands that anything we say today is going to come through the glasses that I wear of being a shareholder and a director of the company. So I wanted to make sure that everybody understands that. Hattie, how are you, man?
I'm good, thank you. Nice seeing you, Paul.
Awesome. So the reason we wanted to bring Hattie on board here, we've done a number of Zoom calls with Atlas. We had Dirk Moritz, the past president, do the presentations, but I really wanted to have Hattie here with us today so you guys get a good sense of who now is running the show and get a good sense of the guy behind the steering wheel right now. So Hattie, I know a lot of guys know the business, but I want to hear from you. Tell us about Atlas and exactly what the business does.
Well, in Atlas Trust, the main core of business originally when we first started was just the roof trusses for new construction. That's residential or multifamily. Anything with wood, we did the trusses. Then we progressed into engineered wood floor. And now we've added in the last few years, especially once we did the M&A and in Nanaimo, we added the wall panel to there. And we started to see significant growth in the wall panel division and floor cassette. And basically what we are doing at the moment is just we manufacturing pre-engineered materials and products for the construction. Anything done with wood and up to 6-story wood buildings.
Fantastic. Hattie, how long and when did you start Atlas?
I started Atlas 1999. I bought the company in Nanaimo. There was a small company called something else. And at that time, I think they were doing 99,500 revenue for the year, annual revenue. And I paid, by the time it's all said and done, I paid $45,000 for it. That's I'm lucky granddad, so I like to repeat that story once in a while. And I don't embellish it. It's all the right numbers, bro.
Yeah.
So 1999.
So 1999, you took over the business. Call it $100,000 in revenue the company was doing. You grew it to, when we took you guys public about 3 or 4 years ago, I think you had a run rate of $8 million. So in a relatively, short period of time, grew it from 100,000 to 8 million. Now, why don't we talk about
just sorry, Paul, if I missed something there. While we're doing that at the beginning, because I came from a big window business across Western Canada, and I was in charge of sales. I was a market-driven, market share-driven executive, and volume meant everything, and just destroy competition and pick up volume. And I did that for a while at AEP, and I think I was doing about $14-15 million a year, but we were making nothing. And then with the help of the young lady on the call now, Melissa and Gurmeet, we started to actually work the numbers and get sophisticated and start doing less and making more money. And then we brought the business back to around $8 million, but then we made way more money than we did before and a better cash flow. I just wanted to put that little correction in there, if that makes any. That way you will know where my brain comes from too.
Absolutely, we want to get in your brain, and
yeah,
it scares me a little to think we're going to go in your brain, but we'll get there at some point. Why don't who is Hattie Abassi? Because I know you, and a number of investors have come to know you, but you got an interesting background. You're not originally from Canada. Why don't you tell us, where Hattie Abassi came from?
You want the good stuff? Okay, so yeah, you heard it a few times with the calls. So anyway, I was born in Iran, Persia, and I left home 75, just before revolution, to England. And as a Persian guy, Iranian, your dad, you have no choice. You either become an engineer or a doctor. So they sent me to England to become an engineer. I did mechanical engineering. And then I moved to England from England to Canada in 1982 because of the revolution. And I wanted to live in Canada. I love this country. And my first job was in 82 was at McDonald's on King George Highway and 7 seconds in Surrey. I was a night shift janitor Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday night for $4 an hour. And then I built my way out of that, and we are where we are today. And that's where I'm at today. Yeah. And then in my personal life, I'm proud to be Canadian. I love Canada. And part of my accomplishment, I founded a junior football team on Vancouver Island called Vancouver and Raiders. And we became Canadian champion and a phenomenon in Canadian football. And then they inducted me to the Hall of Fame and the team into Hall of Fame. We were the youngest person and a team that became to the BC Hall of Fame football. And Canadian government nominated me to be the first Iranian ever to run an Olympic torch, the Winter Olympic torch. And that was actually, aside from my kids, and that was one of the biggest highlights of my life, to be able to run an Olympic torch and be nominated by the government to do it. That was a huge honor.
Yeah. That's fantastic. No, congratulations, Hattie.
Thank you.
I thought it was important to sort of hear that, because I know you've got an amazing work ethic. I've seen it, and it's good to understand where you're from to really understand sort of what investors are buying into when they're buying into the company. Why don't we talk a little bit now? The company went public. We operate, I think it's 7 different facilities if we count the window facility as well. Maybe just a little bit explanation of why grow the business that way, and what are the different sort of, give us some details of the different facilities across the country.
Well, Paul, as you know it, when you were here with us at the beginning, and that was the time when I was looking at the football, and then how we gathered a lot of people from across the nation, and we made this championship team. And I kept thinking, I said, wouldn't it be great if I could do that in business and have a national company and become champions in the country stuff there. So then when you came on, and then we were looking at the roll-up, and I knew about my industry, and our industry is such an old-fashioned industry, and there are lots of people like me that you build a niche. To a naked eye, it looks like we put in a couple of pieces of wood together, but it's actually a very sophisticated engineered structural product. It's not just 2x4s, 2x6. It's engineered, software intensive, and we make it look really simple. But one thing we became master of what we do, but we had forgotten about exit, evaluations, who takes over your business. And old days, you handed it to your son or your daughter. Nowadays, they don't. They're like, my son wanted to be a pro footballer, and then he got into broadcasting and stuff. The last thing he wanted to do was work in a truck plant. And he did blame me. He said, I made him work outside when he was 15 years old in the rain all the time, and so things like that. So then it becomes, what do? You sell it to your employees. And I've seen the stories from some of my friends who sold it to their employees. They retired. They had to move back in the business because the recession hit in a small town, and the employees couldn't pay back money. And then he lost his retirement. He had to come back to work again. So it was stories like that I'd heard. Then when you came on across, and when you talked about that, and then I had heard about Boyd Auto Body a little bit in the past, that what they've done with us, with the body shops, a very, very non-sexy business, and they made it look the way it was. And I'd heard about it, and I had a little connection with Boyd Auto Body because they come from Winnipeg, and I have one of my most favorite kids that is like a stepson to me. He played football for me. He's a big superstar in Winnipeg, and he had connection with Boyd through the football and through the Winnipeg Blue Bomber stuff. So we knew about that stuff, and I was close. So when I was hearing that, and it was just an amazing story. And the biggest part was giving people like me, individual trust plan owners, an opportunity to exit, get a fair market value for their business, plus have business be in a safe hand to move forward and keep growing, and then be all that. And that's what really was the picture. And that's why I invested most of everything I had into this, and said, yeah, let's go do it. So that was that creating a possibility for people in our industry that it wasn't there before. Right now, if you look at our business, when you have a privately owned business, the owner has to make so much money. They have to have the different cars, different trucks, and a home here and stuff there. And your employees make good money and you help them. But at the end of it, you can only pay them so much. But right now, we brought a better possibility for our M&A companies we've done. Employees make more money. Operation managers have a better earning. Like that becomes to professionals what they make. They have good benefit plans. And the other thing is, like, I mean, in a privately owned company, every time somebody says, hey, Hadi, I want to be the best and cannot grow. I mean, how many operations managers can you have in one factory? How many salesmen can you have? How many CFOs or CEOs can you have? But eventually becomes, hey, son, or hey, daughter, we have 7 companies. Soon we could have 10 companies, 15 companies. Where's your oyster? Where do you want to go? This is the road map. You want to be this thing, go to study this. You have the perfect example. You have Melissa on this call. She's been with me for a long time. I think if I'm not wrong, about 12, 13 years, something like that. She was an accountant in our business. Then she became the controller. Then she became a corporate controller. And now she's the interim CFO. And we're working that on the roadmap that she could qualify, and nothing's given. This is not nepotism anymore. This is about earning your stripe and becoming a CFO of a publicly trading company, operating across the nation from a little town called Nanaimo. And these are all, it was all of that. So it wasn't just about the money part. It was all about creating that possibility that wasn't there before for them. And it was other business, but not through AEP. And that was the inspiring thing. That's what keeps you going 24 hours a day, to create that possibility for human beings, and out of it participate with lots of shareholders that hopefully, and not hopefully, that I'm absolutely committed to that. They're not going to regret because they invested in AEP. They're going to make money on it. And because they are in there to invest, and most of them invest their retirement money. And I'm committed to making sure those people are going to retire comfortably.
Fantastic. Certainly when I first saw the opportunity, I recognized a lot of similarities between Atlas and a number of other successful roll-ups where it involved things like succession issues that you mentioned. It involved, sort of a fragmented industry that didn't necessarily have, or had a lot of mom and pop operations that couldn't reinvest in modernizing the facilities and taking advantage of synergies of buying in bulk and cross supplying of engineering and things like that. So I think the premise has not changed. I think if anything, what I've found is that there's more opportunities in newer trends and newer technologies and things like floorboards and wall boards and things like that I didn't really see early on, and it looks like the company's able to take advantage of. Let's talk a little bit about really the products that Atlas built. What problem do they solve? Why even worry about trusses? Why do you want to build floorboards or wall panels in a facility rather on site? Why not just do it the old-fashioned way?
Well, the old-fashioned way was number one, was it was very timely. Still, they do some homes. It's just the homes when these post and beams they do, and they do it on site. That takes a lot of skilled carpentry and a lot of time. Then it comes the new codes, the new bylaws, and the new weather streams and stuff that you need to man. You need to build a home that meets the code. Then you have a snow load, wind load, a storm load, everything. That's where we come in. We engineer it. And it comes to a point, like everywhere in Canada, they have different codes and different rules for the load structure for the roof. And then what happens now, then it comes to a point, say architects or designers, they send us a floor plan that is just the footprint of a home. They say, hey, could you design us a floor and a roof or this thing that passes the code? Then we do the design for them. And our designers do that. Then most of the municipalities in Canada, they have to take that design. It's called a design layout for the permit. The BC, not BC, just all over the municipalities, they will give them a permit based on that roof, because the roof is what holds the whole house. It's on top, but it holds the roof and the foundations are the two main parts. So that's what we come in. It's the engineering plus the cost effectiveness. Then you build in a component. It's a very huge component and it's engineering intensive in the shop. And you build it within 3 or 4 hours and you ship it to them and you hoist it and you put it on the roof. They assemble it the day after. Then we did the floor for it because the houses, they wanted to have, say, a basement. They didn't want to have walls everywhere. They wanted to have big span. So the engineer floor and the floor trusses came in. So we came up with a solution with that. And then you start pushing the envelope. How far can you go with that? Then the next thing we know, there comes the labor problem and the weather problem. Right now, if you go to a high school and you say, put your hand up, how many wants to be policeman, fireman, a carpenter? When it comes to carpenter, they're going to look at you like there's something wrong with you. Kids don't want to become carpenters anymore, or maybe some, not a lot of them. And we come in there because now they need labor to put wall panels together, and because they don't have the carpenters. So basically, then you will have a crew that they just assemble in a jigsaw puzzle. And we have built the pieces for the puzzle. And that's where our evolution is happening in our industry. Like the technology is there, but the investment, the manpower, everything takes time to do that. Really, like there was even at one point or other an article in US with the prefab modular home and stuff. They compared it to when Steve Jobs said that we're going to have 10,000 or 12,000 songs in this little electronic thing that's called an iPod. The technology for our construction, for our industry is like that. Like it's opening. If you go to Europe, they're about 10, 15 years ahead of us on prefab modular manufacturing homes. So it's a fast changing pace. And the advantage with us is versus private owner, you do not have the finance, the technology, and the manpower to keep up with that pace. Mm-hmm. So you either become just a small mom or papa shop just doing the roof trusses or the wall panel or the floors, or you have a capability of that for your organic growth, setting up your base, using the client base and expanding your market. And once you have your operation running within 6 months, 10 months, 12 months, you add the rest of the products to it. Mm-hmm. And then your organic growth, that's how it grows. Mm-hmm. And that's where I've seen it. And our industry, Paul, like it's crazy how it's changing so fast. Like it's just amazing how fast it's changing right now. Mm-hmm. And then the biggest part there is that like the demand for residential buildings and people wanting to have their own home, wanting to move to suburbs and everything. It's just crazy how it's evolving right now.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you really hit on a key point that I think a lot of investors have missed, but a lot of people don't really understand some of the really dynamic changes that are going on within the construction industry, where the old way of doing business is really getting modernized, and the idea of engineered and fully designed products being built sort of under a roof as opposed to on site, that's a dramatic change in the way construction is being made. I think a number of you guys know, I used to work in construction. I know what it's like to be out there. You get some bad weather, it shuts work sites down, and it costs the building owner and the developer a lot of money. So these innovations right now are starting to really dramatically change the way construction is handled right now. Yeah. And I'm glad you really brought up the fact that a lot of the mom and pop operations, which is predominantly, I'd say 80 to 90% of the owners of these trust companies, they just don't have the capability of modernizing to be able to capture that part of the market. But maybe give it a little example, like when somebody goes to build a house right now, I think we're probably talking $15,000 to $20,000 as a spend on just roof trusses on the average home. But now you start adding floors and walls. How much more of that wallet share for a build?
Basically, if you take the roof and then you add the floor, and then you're looking at not exactly doubling it, but you even sometimes, depending how sophisticated the floor is, you can double it. But then when you add the wall to it, that's 3 times the roof value sometimes, because depending if it's 2-story. And then if you're doing the exterior wall, interior walls, and then some companies you can add the stairs to it and stuff, then next thing you know, it becomes like the value of when you originally were doing a roof for say $10,000. Right now you're looking at maybe about $60,000 contract, and all of a sudden. And the most amazing part, once your foundation's there, they have their foundation done. And if you build your foundation in your business, that your technology is everywhere, you can deliver everything to that person. Once the design is done, everything there, you can manufacture everything less than a week and have it on the job site for them. And put it, and then the crew can put it together. And that's how the possibilities they're existing there. The only thing about it is, the main part of the game is, when you talk about something about that big possibility and dream, but you got to look at the magnitude, that how much is involved. It's product, it's wood, it's the weather, plus it's engineering sophistication, permit, and everything. You cannot expect it to be overnight and be impatient, because the moment you make quarterly mistake, the whole building doesn't fit. It's just like putting the jigsaw puzzle together. You cannot custom fit your own thing. Everything has to fit properly. So you need to be a bit patient. You need to learn how you do it. Otherwise, you're going to go and hang yourself out.
Exactly.
Yes, that's the part.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's part of the reason why the momentum's building, but it's hard to get some of the old school guys to change the way they do their business, but it's starting to happen. We're starting to see some real solid repeat business.
Yeah.
The other point that I want to mention to all the listeners here is that people don't understand too how important the trust piece is to the whole sort of, build, because usually the designs have to be brought and approved with a truss design approved as well. So Atlas gets access to that builder before almost any other product is installed or designed or anything. So if you think about the implications to selling other products, Atlas gets access to that customer before anybody else does. So it's really important where you guys fit in the chain of
yeah, and that's a great point you brought. So not only then it. Say nowadays sometimes it takes about 3 months to give somebody a permit because of COVID, everything. We know what's happening even 1 month before, 2 months before they applied for the permit. We know what's going on in there. So you have a lot of time to start speaking to them and stuff about other products. Then the other thing is, we control the job site till the framing inspection is done. So when they put the doors, windows in, and the roof, everything's on, and the building's locked up, they call a stage called framing inspection. We have to stamp each product, each truss by the engineer professional stamp. And then they are allowed to do insulation, drywall, everything. And that's the other thing that we have, that we hold on to, that is, it's just, that's the part it's the sophistication of the product we manufacture. That way, when you see a load of trusses on a roof, then it looks like a triangle with a bunch of webs, everything. There was a lot of design and thinking and stuff going on in there, engineering going on in there with the place and stuff. I mean, it's pretty, it's very, very important part of the job or a project, right? Yeah,
yeah, for sure. That's awesome. So again, 7 facilities. 1 facility is windows, so let's call it 6 that are manufacturing wood products. How many have been upgraded to sort of the full wall and floor panels, and how many haven't?
Okay, so in Ontario at Pacer, we do wall, floor, and roof panel, and then if other locations in Ontario, the other 2 locations, Clinton or Satellite, if they get some major clients, then we can use the geography and drive and do the delivery on that. But mainly we do a lot from the Pacer because we have the machinery there. Winnipeg, we did 1 small one in SC in Manitoba, but we are looking at doing the wall panels in there in another way or shape coming up. That's in the works that I'm working on there and stuff, looking at some possibilities there. Then in BC, in Nanaimo, we started a wall panel plant about 6-7 months ago. And right now we have it fully running 1 line, and then we are in the process of moving into another building, and then we add in a second line because you can only do so many linear feet in 1 line in a day. So we are seeing the demand starting to grow. It's not there at today, but I'm watching it is coming. And then we are getting prepared for it. So we had an opportunity to buy that automation machinery that we just announced. And then they had a beautiful automated wall panel line on there. And then we purchased that. And then we are in the process of next week, we start installing that other wall panel line. So we will have 2 lines in Nanaimo there. And then Nanaimo is close vicinity to Vancouver. That is the problem we have is the BC ferry. But if we need to, we have some business on where we have Novum right now that we could supply them. But really, that will be the second phase. We have Nanaimo down, then we're going to do the same with Novum in Abbotsford in Vancouver. Mm-hmm. We bought the company. Now we are in the middle of process of changing the machinery to automation and modernizing it for the trusses and then the floors. Then we will add the wall panel to that facility too. So if you can see, it's slowly but methodically, we're just growing into stage by stage. But once you set it up in one place, then it becomes the cookie cutter. You have Manny, Lindsay, so-and-so, can we move this machinery there tomorrow? It can be done in a month. Thank you so much, because the blueprint was already there. Yeah. And that's how the plan is. It's just, and it's one of those things that everybody knows. They say, please slow down a bit, because you want to get it all done tomorrow. But everything has to be done patiently, I guess.
Yeah. And the reason I asked that was really to highlight the fact that there's so much potential organic growth just within sort of upgrading the different facilities to the different products we have.
You see, Paul, I always used to tell that to my clients. Mm-hmm. When sometimes the market opens up, the weather's good, everybody wants product tomorrow. And I used to tell them, please come inside and see what it takes to manufacture it. We don't just go pick up stuff from the shelf. We design it, we manufacture it, we ship it. Like the beauty of it is that sometimes, and you need to be really careful not to drive yourself crazy. You can see it there, but it's not one of those things. You dream it, you can go from A to Z overnight, but it's such a product, you have to go A, B, C, D. It's that foundation. And we are in construction. Everything starts from a solid foundation. And our business is the same. The M&A is the same. 7 companies, 10 companies, 15 companies, sometimes being public and stuff, it's not that difficult to raise the cash and do it. But how you integrate them, how you make them make money, that they're going to pay the bills, pay everybody's, pay the loans, everything. That's got to be always in the back of your mind too. So it's time to just build the foundation. And then once you build it, it's easier that way. And that's what.
Yeah, and I would argue, I think the bulk of the time over the last couple of years has really been building that I call it a platform, but building the foundation of the business, so that now it's easier for us to either add a new product line, add a new facility. We've got a lot of the infrastructure in place. That it's easier. It's not easy, but it's easier than it was before. So, yeah, go ahead.
No, and I totally agree with you. Even now, I look at it. Like, I'm going to go there after this call. I was there this morning where they are installing the new automated machineries at Atlas. And then I drove away and said, so we started Thursday night before the long weekend. And then we go through the weekend. And then Sunday we didn't do it because some of them are people religious stuff, and it's Sunday, it's the family. Then Monday we were there, and I walked away and said, I would have stopped there, because it used to take us about 3 months to do that, what we've done over the weekend. Wow. Because it's not just mechanical machine we're putting together. We're working on the digital part, the electronic part. It's all computerized automation. And I said, I would not drive them crazy, because I could see them as soon as they saw me walking, everybody's looking at me. What do you want now? So I said, I used to take me 3 months to put up a machine like this together. Look at how fast these guys are moving now, And that's the other thing I noticed actually today. It was exciting to see it, Yeah.
No, that's awesome. And when I first came to the facility, this was years ago, but I was amazed at the level of automation, the laser guided machines and things like that. So that's pretty impressive. Some of the automation, and I understand it's getting even more automated as we go. So pretty impressive stuff. Why don't we talk a little bit about the industry in Canada right now? Give us a sense of numbers. How many truss facilities are out there across the country? Would you guess?
Oh God! Honestly, my God, I should know it. I say right now they're probably across the country. Stuff maybe about 220.
220.
Yeah, total. The smaller ones and the bigger ones, and we become one of the bigger ones right now there.
Yeah.
Like there is about 4 of us right now, and 4 or 5 of us about that, but it's about 220. The small ones, big ones, and the ones member, about that many.
Yeah, and I think another thing to explain to everybody is the understanding when you see these trusses, or if you've never seen them, these trusses are I mean, they literally span the the size of a house, and logistically, it's very difficult to ship these from one province to another. So they tend to be very localized. You will have one facility that can maybe only do a 200-mile radius, because just the trucking of these things is very difficult and very expensive. So you've got a lot of these operations, and the more you modernize these operations, and the further you can sort of spread that geographical target. But there are a number of facilities out there, and obviously, which makes for a good sort of potential pipeline of acquisitions down the road. Hattie, one thing that I think investors should be aware of as well is, like, you're the founder of the company. Obviously, you at one point you were the majority shareholder, almost 100% outside of some employees. I think you got about 7.5 million shares, something like that.
Yeah, I think it's 7.7, 7.8, something like that.
Yeah. So obviously, the key here is you've got a vested interest to make sure that the business runs well. And we always like to see CEOs that have a meaningful stake of the business. So good to see that. But why don't you tell me a little bit more? We've got Melissa on the line. Tell us a little bit more about the team, because I'm very impressed. I'm actually very impressed with some of the women that you have on the team, which most people wouldn't think that's it's an industry that I got to be careful what I say here, but I mean, you've got some really good people that are working for you. Maybe talk about your team.
Okay, so Melissa's on the line, and Melissa used to work for Gary. That was my accountant, and he always know one day I had my aunt that Melissa needs to come and work with us. So actually, I promised when he retired, he sold his business. Melissa came to us, or just before that, and this Melissa's there, and then we have the other person is Gurmeet. That she's the vice president of operations. And Gurmeet's been with me is actually 21 years. And she even worked for the competition. Then she came to me, and she knows our industry in and out like anything is. The lumber pricing, the EBITDAs, the margins, everything. Cross country, she manages all the operations. And we have Amy that was there with me as a young lady working at Atlas. She runs the operation in Atlas that she grew up through the business. And we have an amazing young lady called Alana that she runs the HR with us across the country. Very, very qualified lady and HR, the human resource is our biggest assets we have, or I believe we have, is the humans. And then these are most of the people that they actually came, aside from Sterling, Brian, that they all grew up with me in the business. But some of them that they came to us, whether they play professional lacrosse for one of my teams, then I hired them to come and work in there, or football, or through high school, their parents said, go work in Atlas with Hadi there. So every one of them grew with us through Atlas in the Nanaimo plant, and they've been there. And then once you go across the country stuff there, we have hired some really nice young men. Like, for example, we have the operation in Satellite. It's one of our top performing operations for turnaround. And Cal, his name, is a very educated young man that he came through Pacer as a sawyer. And then we found out he was an Ivy League MBA student. Wow. That he was working in Pacer in a meeting. So we discovered him, and now he runs one of our operations. Darren came from Alberta. Another great educated young man that he runs our operation at Pacer. And Jamie he runs the operation in Clinton, that his mom and dad used to own the business, and he actually worked through the operation as a young man. Even recently I saw his son, as a teenager, goes to high school in the summertime, he's working there, that he was just there. And we have a scene in Manitoba that we had Devon, that was one of the partners, previous owner, worked for us. And then he decided he wants to move to Nova Scotia staff. And then we have the ex-owner that is a wizard at machinery. He decided to come back with us, and he's going to run that operation. So the team is very, very solid and very, very strong. It's an amazing team, and they are very, very strong. And I love working with them, and sometimes they do give me a rough time too. So they keep me honest and they give me rough. They don't just take orders. Yes, so yeah, they give me a rough time, but I love them and I'm proud of them because they've come a long way. And I tell you, Paul, something about it is for all of us, including me and the team. Like Dirk was with us for 2 years, and there was something we learned from the young man was we learned how to be a publicly traded company. We are very, very stubborn construction result producers in our own industry. And sometimes we become very righteous about it. And we learn how to become a publicly trading company across the national and work with the team and work with corporate governance and be accountable and how to lead people and stuff there. Because you work in construction, you know what, we can be like sometimes. You know, we roll up sleeve and get out of my way, we get it done. To do what we want to do, you can't do it on your own. And you can't even do it with a small team we have. We need more human beings, and more we need to have that. And to get back to like about the human beings, you know, I follow you on your Twitter and probably everybody on this call. Like, I mean, maybe I know them or I don't know, but because I follow, we are all in the same club, right? I saw a picture once when IPA was going up so good during the COVID, everything. And then there was that hockey stick with the companies who they go straight, nothing happening. Then the inception happens and the curve goes up. And IPA was the effect was COVID, everything. So I'm looking at it, so what is the hockey stick with our business? When you do M&As, it takes so long. You can only add so many a year. You got to integrate. Organic growth, it takes time. So what does it take for us to have that curve? To do all of a sudden you go straight and all bang, you stack up. And really the biggest thing I've seen, even I work closely with Alana at the moment I became in charge of Alana. This curve is what we're going to do is the human being we have in our operation. They want to cause us to go the other way. Mm. Yeah, and that's how much the human beings, it means a lot to us, you know.
I referred to businesses like Atlas recently. I started referring to blue collar businesses. I think there's, I think people have lost sight of companies that make things. You know that you know, people have to use their hands to make things, and I think there's a big opportunity that the overall market's missing. They're chasing, you know, software. They're chasing these other businesses, which, you know, in their own right are doing well, but the valuations are crazy. And I think these are, you know, examples like Atlas are a good example of companies that are, you know, doing well, but just not sexy and not capturing the spotlight. And I think people will be surprised at how well some of these businesses will deliver as far as investors' returns. At this point, Hadi, there's a number of questions. I'm going to start taking some of the questions from the listeners here, and we'll see how many we can fire off here. So I've got okay, here's one directed to me. When did Paul come on board? So I guess technically there's two points where I came on board. So I actually helped Hattie with the company when it went public. So what's that now? It's got to be close to 3 or 4 years.
3.5, yeah.
3.5 years. Okay, so yeah. 3.5 years. I was one of the first check writers on the IPO process when it went public. And so I've been a shareholder since day one, being public, and then of course recently, about a month and a half ago, I joined as a board member. I think it was late December. Yeah, let's call it late December. Somewhere around there, I became a board member. Okay, we sort of already answered this. How many companies in the Canadian market are there to roll up? As Hattie said, there's about 220 out there. But the other thing to mention too is that at some point, you know, there's a possibility of looking south as well. And it's the same issue down in the U.S. A lot of fragmentation, a lot of industry that isn't properly modernized. So there's some big opportunities down there as well. And then, okay, so which target do you have? Which target do you have to grow organically, and which one to grow through acquisitions? Well, I think you sort of answered a number of the questions. I mean, right now Atlas operates in in BC, Manitoba, and Ontario. I mean, I'll ask you, is there any interest in going into any of the provinces right now?
Any other provinces at the moment, right now, we are concentrating on the organic growth on each facility to the maximum what we can get out of it. And yes, there are always interests, because at the end of it, the main goal is to have a footprint within 150 to 200 kilometers or miles of each location. That way you have a satellite. If you look at the map, you have pins everywhere that you can enter. You can even have one manager for a whole different regions and everything like that to scale up to that. There is appetite for that, but we need to be ready for it, and they need to be ready to sell. And the other thing is, right now, since we came to the market, we are paying about 2.5, 3 to 3.5 times EBITDA. The people know we are in a roll-up company. We want to buy it. They are no dummies. They know how to run business, and they know what the evaluation are. All of a sudden, they're asking more. So then it becomes a chess game. Because you can't just, it's not like you want to buy a shirt. Oh, I like that shirt. It costs $10 more. Let's go pay for it. It's got to be a little bit frugal on that and be careful. So the due diligence comes in there. And Melissa's on the line. She controls the money and the EBITDA. Don't go by the sweet face you see down there. So it has to make sense that. But at the end, yeah, our dream and our plan is to have a footprint in each province, each there, and within 200 max 200 miles of each thing, you will have a place down there. But don't forget, when we talk about roll-up, it's the 220 stuff. That's just the truss industries. There are so many other related industries that we haven't even, I've looked at it, I've explored it, but we haven't even moved in there yet. And there is a point. There comes a time and a place, then the explosion will happen. Once the foundation is ready, the base ready, the structure is ready, then that's when all of a sudden the flowers will start growing everywhere too.
Good point. Okay, a relatively simpler question. Are things made to order, or is there some standardization within the products you build?
Very, very minute standard floor trusses we do in backies. Everything else is made to order. Everything else we have raw material custom made. Very, very a small amount of custom made we have. It's like a standardized. Everything else is custom made.
Yeah, good. I don't know if Melissa maybe wants to handle this question, but what metrics do they use to measure efficiency? How do you guys know when something's working? Like one of the facilities, or just overall the whole operation? What metrics?
So when it does come to production and that kind of efficiency, we have a board footage per man hour. When we're assessing the truss production and everything specifically. The overall look, over the many years, unfortunately, that I've been doing this, I've really worked out when our specific material costs compared to sales. Obviously with lumber, a little bit of fluctuation there given its market fluctuation and costings. But I've really fine-tuned those percentages. But overall, gross margin is key, obviously from my accounting background.
Oh, we lost you. Melissa, we just lost you went mute there.
How's that?
There you go.
I hit an extra button with a finger somewhere and everything closed down.
It happens, yeah. I think we lost you at gross margins, and I think just after gross margins, yeah.
Yeah, the next one that's key to me hitting around is EBITDA. Also, the bulk of it is really that board footage per man hour, and getting our efficiencies out of the plants and assessing that, because it can vary quite a bit between residential packages to commercial, and all the way over to barns and how complicated things can get. So it's a quite key indicator.
Yeah, for sure. Now, and maybe touch on something you just said there. Obviously, lumber prices are a big component. How do you guys deal with volatile lumber prices?
In a normal environment, not COVID, it hits the same. It hits the same curves up and down on a consistent annual basis. One of our philosophies over those normal times has usually tried to keep our pricing fairly consistent. So when the prices increase, we try and keep it fairly stable, maybe a small increase. But when the prices drop again, we don't lower our price down significantly as well. It provides some consistency for us over the course of a 12-month rolling period, especially given the cyclical nature of our industry. Through COVID here, man, we've had to be on top of it even more. It's constant assessing and price adjusting right now, to the point where we look at how long can we guarantee our prices from quoting out to market, because the prices is just skyrocketing right now, and inventory is coming to definitely coming to a point of making sure we have it.
Yeah. Either you or Hattie can answer this, but I think that's one of the advantages of being a little bit bigger is you guys are able to buy, sort of inventory in bulk and get a little bit of extra cost savings, where I don't think, if you're a small operator, you're not going to get the same opportunities to buy, discounted lumber.
No, if you're a small operator, sometimes you have the flexibility to do different things and stuff. But with us, we don't have that flexibility as much, but we have the buying power and we have certain supplier. Right now, there is time and a place with engineered wood and lumber. It's just that you are fortunate that because of logistics, whatever, that you're going to get products. Because you're a smaller one, it's good luck. You're not going to get it. And then that's where the panic. Like, we even go through it even with the builder stuff. It's like when they first announced COVID, everybody went and grabbed all the toilet paper and canned food. Now, all of a sudden, the world's going to end. We want all floors, trusses, everything tomorrow, because nothing happened. So there is that hype and panic happen, but we deal with it. And one of these things is lumber is a commodity. It's like being the stock market, and it's commodity volatile, goes up and down. And that's been part of our business for all my life. I've been in this business, but the fluctuation wasn't as up. And I always looked at it and told people, I said, come down. We are fishermen in the middle of the ocean. You got a storm and then you adjust to it. It's not going to kill you. Sometimes the waves are higher than lower, and you're just going to deal with it as you go along. And that's the way market is right now. It's out of our control. Whatever we have control is control in inventory and pricing and the contracts we sign now. And the builders are in the same business. They do understand that. They try to push you around, but they can't all the time. And they do understand we are all in the same ballpark. And they are all partners. So we got to understand it too. They're building to sell a house at a fixed price. So we work together, because they are not your client just today and gone tomorrow. We've been dealing with some people for 20 years. And we want to deal with them for another 20 years. And that's what's happened with our market. That is part of our business. And even if you control the mill, price of the log fluctuates. So it's just the same as being in a stock market, publicly trading company. I wish I wake up in the morning and I didn't see our shares go down 2 cents, but get used to it. That's what happens. And at the time, you enjoy going up and enjoy going down too there, because that's the nature of the beast. You can't control that. And I want to go back to one thing about the measure you asked, and Melissa mentioned something about board feet. All my life, you try to measure what is the productivity of a person per hour. And board feet is something so if you look at the lumber price, they say $1,000 per board feet, $1,200 stuff there. That's a constant across the industry. It's basically the width, the height, times the length there, right? That's the board feet. So we measure that. Whenever you manufacture a house or one truss, we have the software that it tells you at the end of that truss, you built it at so many hours, and it was, say, 1,000 board feet or 400 board feet. That means all the lumber we use in that product. So that's a constant thing, doesn't change. And then we divide that by the hours of that person who took it, and we have a number. That is, we know we're doing good there. And then if it goes up, you're in the bonus territory. If it goes down, you need to have a chat and find out what's going on. How come they weren't below that? That's a constant number. And we have set up our technology and our software. And that's where the one Gurmeet gets that report, the score sheet and the KPIs every week from each operation. And the perfect game plan is to compare it and see what happened. What is the fluctuation? And if it's consistent at, say, 80, 90 board feet per man hour. And some days it goes up because easier trusses, sometimes it goes down because there is tougher trusses, but that numbers, that's our KPI, that's our Bible. We manage each person, each operation's productivity. And because you have multi-plants now, one company hits a home run and the other doesn't, then you start to collaborate. What happened? And then you find out it's the way they're doing it, it's the machinery, it's the saw, everything. And that's the beauty of it. You can start exchanging information to start improving each other. And that's the board feet per man hour. It's a pretty simple and but sophisticated way of managing that, our productivity there, aside from margins that we do with the accountants and stuff.
Sure,
Yeah.
that makes sense. Let's fire off some more questions here. Question here is, what's the total revenue opportunity? How big let's see, how big is the industry? And let's talk about trusses. I think that's probably the easiest number to get, but we've got to start expanding into the other engineered products. How big would it be in Canada, do you think?
Melissa, do you want to do that, or do you want me to? Sorry.
Yeah, Melissa, no, certainly.
That one I'm not but as Hattie mentioned, when you get into like the one-off project, you can really go from just trusses being 10,000 all the way up to now 60. So on a truss industry basis, like when we're getting up into revenue figures, I'm not actually entirely sure across the country. I know the growth is substantial, but like it's just within the organic growth is more what I've been dealing with and looking at. Like I said, going from that $10,000 price tag you get out of one customer and one job up to 60,000 just from one customer, and again, all before they hit lockup, is huge potential, which excites me. But for a revenue across the country, I'm gonna have to defer to Hattie. Maybe.
Yeah. So Paul, if you look at the revenue, like even we had it on our presentation in the past, the total wood manufacturing, that's everything, wall panel, trusses, any other food manufacturing. There are about 6,300 companies out there. It's a $2.5 billion industry in Canada.
There you go. Yeah.
That's the number. And each average company does anywhere from $700 to $1 million.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So if you look at that, then you can see what we're at. And when you look at it with the 7 companies, we gone from 8 to whatever the last one was. Like we go and so say around 40. We had said in 3 years we'll be around 50, and then the COVID hits and stuff. But if you look at it, once you have even with these 7, and once you have your game plan on your everything there, and all of a sudden that's where your organic growth goes to a different area, but the whole industry is huge, and that's even without all the possibilities that existed in the past. That is coming up to now, is coming to point, because the component manufacturing inside the control environment is huge enough, and it's one of them is really huge. Sometimes if you start putting numbers to it, and then you are starting to cap it because there is nothing.
You know what? I'd recommend everybody take a look at a company in the U.S. called Katerra, which is an example of sort of the Silicon Valley getting into the housing industry. And they're literally building complete homes under these massive warehouse facilities and shipping them out. That's the way the industry is going. And if you think about the wallet spend in construction, it's massive. And it literally, the $60,000 mark, that's just for several of the wood product components of a house. But there really is, you're capturing a customer at the early stage of build, where you have a lot of control over what they could be purchasing as well. So it's the billions of dollars that he quoted, that's still pretty small compared to what the final wallet share could be here.
That's Canada, by the way. That's not even no sense.
Exactly.
That's no,
it's times 10 if you go into the US. So it really is an interesting opportunity. I mean, we're going to fire through here because we're going to run out of time if I don't ask more questions and get these answered. So one question is there any green spin to the company's offerings? Any environmental advantages to what we're doing here with Atlas? I know the answer, but I'll let you speak to it.
Well, of course, the environmental is like we use a wood product that is a forest product, but it's a controlled product we use, and we use a lot of engineered product that is the floors and stuff all engineered. It's like OSB board. It's from the waste the chipboard and stuff they manufacture, we're doing that. Plus, by us doing it so efficiently manufactured inside the factory, with efficiency, with computerized equipment stuff, we reduce the waste quite a bit to them. And then we have it's just basically raw products we put together. We don't use any fuels or anything in that area there. Then I'm sure if we're going to write you environmental report, there will be more advantage to it and stuff. But I know it's a pretty clean product we do and stuff. And we reduce a lot of waste in the construction site too. We do a lot of reduction. And we use recycled material a lot too. So
yeah, exactly. I mean, wood is a renewable resource, and
yeah, absolutely
good point. Like the engineered wood products reduce the need for large trees to be cut. So there's a lot of advantages to this style of wood product. So
because when you get it, trying to get a 2x10 and a 2x12 solid lumber out of a wood, what is that? Your floor joist. That's a lot of logs. Big logs. You got to yeah.
Exactly. Okay. Oh yeah. What types of jobs do you prefer? Big ones or small ones?
All of them.
Oh,
that's the advantage with us. It's really, yeah, I mean, of course, you always want to do farm barns because they're all the same process over, but it's just really, with computerized machinery and automation, you do the same thing for them. And once you come to the size you don't choose, you just bid them. And it's really, I guess I could say it's the jobs that they have the good margins. Those are the ones we love to do. But the bottom line is good, yes.
Yeah, I think I've noticed, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you're starting to see more, like the larger developers are starting to go to more and more sort of engineered, components, rather than the small guys are probably still doing a lot of stick framing, but the big developers with lots of homes to build, they're really adopting this new form of construction.
Absolutely, and we even see it now. Like before, it was just price me the trusses, or just price me the floors. But all of a sudden, I need the walls, and then they want the price tomorrow. They took them about 12 months to decide, but they want the price yesterday, right?
Of course. Okay, so do you ever hedge lumber prices or lumber?
Really, no. We are not in that game. We are in the game. If we have the order, we just build our inventory based on what we price. We stick to what we know best, I think.
Yeah, I think that makes sense right now.
Yeah.
Okay, do you ever buy? Okay, this is interesting. Do you ever buy businesses based on bad efficiency? So companies that aren't running well. Would you prefer to buy a company that's not running well, that you can get really cheap and try to fix, or would you buy something that's running well?
We have bought the mix of the above. We have bought companies who ran good and who companies didn't run very well. And they both have their advantages. One has the advantage of you buy them and you let them be, and then they produce the same profit, everything. But not much organic growth because they ran it so efficiently, everything was good. And there is so many things involved in an M&A for. And then the other thing is when you buy a company like that and then you're doing the integration and stuff, if all of a sudden something not goes perfect, it goes the other way. I like the ones we can walk in there, do the integration, do the fixing, and there is the ceiling for possibilities and organic growth is high. And then you work on that. And then you grow in it. But we have purchased mixture of the companies that the ones who needed fixing and raising it and doing that, and the one, for example, is Satellite, for example, and then we have bought companies that they run really good there. But so it's just not a black and white. This is the rule 1, rule 2. You look at the whole picture, and then the other most important part is the territory. What you buy, which area does it fit your big game plan, and those are the look at it there.
Yeah, good. Okay, so I've got a question here that I'm not going to let you answer completely, but it says,
thank you.
What kind of growth can we expect this year? I'm going to rephrase the question. I'm going to say we've just come out of COVID right now. Things have obviously, the world's been turned upside down. Are we seeing improvement now that we sort of know how to deal with COVID? is business better now, even though we're still in the middle of COVID? Is business better now than it was before last year?
Business is, how am I going to answer it? Because do I have the answer what COVID is going to do tomorrow? No.
No,
Like, so,
I think
but,
maybe the way I should ask it is, have you know, the people in the construction industry, have they learned how to cope with COVID so that we're not, I mean, things shut down. Like last year, this time last year, things basically shut down. We're not, that's not the case now. You know, everybody is better prepared, I think, for some of the issues that we're likely to face. Can we expect a healthier construction industry that's going to represent itself in
absolutely. And even today, the last few days, I'm looking at it when I talk to operational, or I go see Nanaimo, or when I was at Nova. And first thing I say, I look at God and I say, thank God we are back to careful and normal. I hope we don't drop the ball and become careless sometime. Because above that, it's good to be cautious, but it's more of it. Yeah, we are not scared to actually say hi to each other because we have the mask on and we practice all that stuff. And the builders are more at ease. The operation is more at ease and stuff there. And yes, it's much, like now Ontario, we hit that close down because the numbers are high there and there was no new permits for a while and stuff. But then that one, it doesn't have the same effect they had last year that we almost turned the lights off for a few months, you know. So it's like anything else. We have learned to cope with it. And in our business, the builders have learned to cope with it, and it's more back to normal. But it's more back to normal with just a small little bit of cautiousness. But then I've always been like that as a private owner. I was always operated business as a little bit of cautious. And how would it make me sleep easier at night when I made profit and I had money in the bank? And even I've seen it with the publicly trading companies since I've been in church. That's always been my number one thing, that is, we need to make profit before we do anything.
Yeah, and I can attest to the fact that Hadi is looking at every way he can find an extra dime or a nickel to save. So he's certainly efficiency is of utmost importance here.
Yeah.
Okay, here's a good question. Is your competitive advantage mainly efficiency or quality and style of product?
Is efficiency. Quality is always on top, but is the capability of what we can do for them. Like they can bring a set of plan to us, we can design it, and we can solve the solution for them, and we can deliver the product to them. We have the power to do that, even if it's a 6-story multi-million-dollar business company, like project. We can do that. Sometimes as a smaller company, you do not want, like even if it was some of the M&As we've done, like when I told the designers we need to design that house, they looked at me and said, but we were scared to do that kind of work before. I said, no, we can do that now. So they had a limit for a certain contract size because of their receivable, payable, and cash flow. And right now we do all of our, but it gives us the capability. And the other thing is, say, for a while when we started Nanaimo, the designers we had here for the technology and knowledge of design, they were not as advanced as of Payson. But we shipped these plans to them and they designed it for us and we used it here. So we have that inter-company capability of helping each other out with sophistication. Because we have some designers or salespeople that they do major contracts and they can help out in another part of the country too. So that's a huge advantage for us at the moment too.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, this should be a relatively simple question. Of all the products we're selling now, where do we get the highest margins? The trusses, there's the walls. Where are we making the most money?
Macrae.
What's that?
Macrae, Melissa. Sorry, Melissa. I'll call her Macrae. Sorry, I apologize.
That's money talker. Yeah.
The money lady.
I have to say, probably the bread and butter has always been trusses, mainly because we manufacture that the most from start to finish in-house. So we control it a lot more. When it comes to things like beams and floor joists, we don't manufacture them on site. We bring them in, we cut them to size, we do the design and everything. But yeah, something that we can have our hands on start to finish tends to get a little bit more profit margin out. quite happy with the wall line so far, also at Nanaimo. It's getting quite interesting. We'll have to see how it goes here once we get a few more months of full sales under our belts.
Oh, that's fantastic. Cool. This one might go back to Hattie. Hattie, what do you do to increase sales? How do you increase sales for the business?
We have a good sales force across the country, and then and certain areas we have established sales, certain areas we don't. We built in it, but that's part of KPIs. And me and Gurmeet and Melissa and me, I get the list of all the quotes out every week. And before that, I get the list of, I know most of the permit being issued in each municipalities in the country. And I'll compare, say if it was 1,000 permits, how many quotes we had that week. And then after that, I'll follow up with the closing ratio. There is a KPI for closing ratio. And then there needs to be a reason why it's not closed or what is it, what is not. And that's how we do it. And then it's aside from motivation and everything, it's about solid numbers. Because it costs us a lot of money to bid jobs. It's not a case of, oh, look at the plan. Okay, I'll put a tape measure and it's $10,000 or $5,000. We actually design a house. We spend a lot of money and resources to design a building, and we don't win everything. We close about 30%, 33%. We are doing really good. And we have a KPI for each person, and then we monitor that. And it's just the closing ratio, margins, everything. And that's how we do it. And then that's how we follow up. You need to follow up with it. You can. That's the one area you can't drop the ball. You need to watch it every week.
Yeah.
And then,
one thing I'd say is that what I've noticed is that there is a sales process that certainly you instill. So when you're taking on some of these underperforming companies, you can sort of build best sales practices and bring it to a company that may have not had it before, and it has a pretty big impact.
yeah, and then really is you're absolutely right. Sometimes when you're really long-term established company there and stuff there, it's basically you're behind the counter, people walking and cannot help you, and you get a list and you hope to get it. With us, it's always been, because I grew up in a very competitive markets in my prior jobs and even the island, it's just a more of a hunter's job. You need to have the hunter's mentality and to go hunt it. But with that, you need to have the sophistication, because sometimes when you're hunting, you want everything and not the margin. It's a chess game, but you need to go be aggressive and fight for everything, because that's the mentality you need to have there, and otherwise complacency doesn't win you anything, right? And it's all a statistical. Like, I come from sports. Like, you have, like, the sports are crazy for statistics on a Sunday, but those statistics will tell you how to run your practices during the week there. You don't pay attention to a statistic, you're not going to win anything.
Yeah. No, I fully agree. Let's take two more quick questions and then we'll wrap everything up here. Any update on the Abbotsford facility, the Zytec equipment manufacturer, Novum? What can you tell us about how things are going there?
But right now, we put the machinery together, and then we got to make one. And it's actually interesting. One line still operating, and instead of one shift, like, we stop one line, so one line runs 2 shifts right now. So you don't stop manufacturing. You're doing that. And we put the machineries there, and now we're doing the machines in Nanaimo. We're installing it, and then we're going to observe and see what we have left here so we can move there. And then the next thing, in a couple of weeks, we're going to go back there and install the rest of the machinery there and basically turn one line off and turn the other one off. And I'm hoping by middle of March, we will have that one running full to there. And then we will start pushing more for sales to run it to the capacity there, to there and stuff. And I'm really excited, because especially I work in that plant myself, building trusses with them and with the old system. And I'm really excited because those guys in the shop are we become really close, and they're really excited to see it, because they have pictures on the wall of automated machinery. And I would never say anything to them, but one day when we shipped the machinery, I told them, I said, look at the picture, and there is one exactly like it. And it's quite excitement down there right now. So So we got, they keep saying when. It's about 2-3 weeks away before we turn everything on there. Yeah.
It's boys and their toys, right? Everybody likes to have big machines.
And especially they love the toys. They didn't have to pay for it, right?
Even better. Yeah. I don't know. There's not too many guys that I know that don't envy somebody else's big, piece of equipment. So I gotta be.
It's like the car me and you want to buy one day, right?
That's right. One day, exactly.
Yeah, one day.
Listen, Hattie. I mean, this has been great, but the way we always like to end this is I like to give you guys an opportunity just to say sort of a parting message, or what can investors look forward to sort of over the next 6 to 12 months. What's the key thing you want to tell people who are listening right now?
May I ask Melissa to say a couple of words from her side and Akandi side, then I will close it, please. Is that okay, Max?
Sure.
Yeah.
Just like to put me on the spot talking.
Yeah.
For the next 6 months or so, I mean, I think I'm on the same page as Hattie here. It's profits. It's fine tuning processes. It's getting ready for the next step here. Even more so than what we have been over the last year. But it's a new year. It's a new year. It's exciting. We had COVID hit at the beginning of last year, and it kind of deflated a little bit, I think, the momentum. So this year, profits and organic growth and maybe some M&A on the horizon. Who knows?
Perfect. Thanks, Melissa. Hattie.
Yeah, and really, and if you see it, I mean, this is not a rehearsed thing, or like known me for a long time and stuff. There is we can buy all the companies we want. We can be the roll-up company, billion-dollar company stuff, but we need to measure how much money we have extra we have in the bank every year, every month, and it's the attention to bottom line this year. And we need to pay a lot of attention to that this year. It's in our power, and we need to deliver what we've been promising. And it's the organic growth, the profitability, and we never take sight of M&As. Like, that's part of my day job. I phone and I make contacts, everything there. But there is one art to M&A, is when it's the right time to pull the trigger. And usually M&A in a publicly traded company, there's about 4 or 5 different parties. They have to dance with the same music. And once in a while, one of them doesn't dance the same music. So we keep going till everybody's on the stars line up, and then we will pull the trigger on some stuff too. But it has to fit the bottom line.
Fantastic. On that note, bottom line, I like that. I've always been a bottom line fan.
Well, that's what I've learned from you. You keep preaching it all. Yeah.
I don't know. You're teaching me a few things for sure. Yeah. Listen, Hattie, Melissa, I want to really thank you guys. All the listeners today, like I said, I've attached myself to the company for a good reason. I think Atlas is got some really good people involved here. I think the opportunity, I'm hopeful that the market comes to learn really what the opportunity is here. It's a lot more than just a company that puts, some wood products together. There's a real opportunity to grow here. I think we've got a fantastic team. And a fantastic opportunity. And I want to thank everybody. I want to thank you guys again for joining us today. I want to thank everybody for listening. And certainly, if anybody wants to ask any other questions or want to find out more, what's the website address? I should have asked you that.
Our website address?
Yeah, you're right. Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah. It's just AEP.ca, atlasengineeredproducts.ca.
There you go. Easy peasy.
Tough. I had to look, by the way. Yeah.
You don't go to your own website. I don't blame you.
Actually, atlasengineeredproducts.com. I'm sorry.
There you go. Even better.
Yeah, I had to look. Yeah.
Good. Otherwise, you would have gone to competitor, I'm sure. But
that's okay.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic, guys. Again, I want to thank you. I want to thank everybody for joining us, and look forward to catching up at a later date.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for your time. God bless everyone. Thank you.